Welcome to 123 from District 123, a podcast that explores and shares the magic happening throughout District 123 schools every day. In each episode, we chat with the people responsible for moving inspired educational ideas from the imagination to the classroom. We dig deeper into those ideas and share the successes from some of the most innovative practices seen throughout Oak Lawn Hometown School District 123. 123 from District 123 is proudly brought to you by the District 123 Ed Foundation. More information about the foundation can be found at d123edfoundation.org. Now here's your host, District 123 Superintendent, Dr. Paul Enderle.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our most current episode of the 123 podcast from School District 123. My name is Paul Enderle. I am the superintendent here in School District 123. And today I'm very excited to talk about a topic that is very near and dear to our hearts here in School District 123. And that's our approach to libraries and media centers in District 123. And I'm very proud to have joining me today our media specialist at Oak Lawn Hometown Middle School, Mrs. Heather McCarthy, who's going to talk a little bit about our award-winning library at Oak Lawn Hometown Middle School. So Heather, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for talking with me today.
Heather, can you give us a little bit of background on yourself before we begin?
Sure. This is my second year as the media specialist, the librarian at Oak Lawn Hometown Middle School. And previous to that, I was a 7th grade language arts teacher for 19 years.
Okay, very good. And so you've had a little bit of a different role, but I'm sure you're pulling in some of that experience and knowledge you have in being a reading and writing teacher into your work
here
definitely. In the library. Okay, very good. We want to engage in this conversation about libraries and media centers primarily because there is and there has been a very strong growing body of research making very strong positive correlations to high quality library programs and student achievements. And, as such, our district has made a three-year commitment to renovating all of our library spaces. We actually just renovated our middle school library space here last summer, and I know it's slowly coming to a point of hopefully being finished soon. But we obviously have students in the space learning every day and working together with you and other staff members. So I'd like to talk a little bit about this concept of, and Heather, you and I have talked about this idea behind like sometimes the titles being confusing.
Yes.
So some places call libraries, others call these spaces media centers. Any thoughts or ideas on the two things?
I do find it interesting how much people kind of battle back and forth on what the space should be called, what the person who's in the space should be called. The idea of media centers goes back to like the 80s when they started adding all this technology into the library. And then in the 90s, they're like, no, it doesn't matter how much technology is in there, we're libraries. And then it keeps getting switched back and forth about every 10 years. So currently we're in between, if we want to call it a media center with a media specialist or a library with a librarian. I find most of the adults refer to it as a media center. The kids call it the library and the librarian. Regardless of what you call the space, we have the same kind of amazing program going on in here.
Sure. And I think that leads us to our kind of next concept or big idea we want to discuss is this idea of high quality libraries being equivalent to higher levels of student engagement, better student achievement across the board. And recently, we're very proud that Oak Lawn Hometown Middle School has earned the ISLE recognition for an exemplary library space. And I was hoping that you could talk a little bit to the how that ISLE recognition kind of serves as a notion of excellence and how some of the tenets of that award come alive every day here at Oak Lawn Hometown Middle School.
Yeah, definitely. The ISLE award is based off the Linking for Learning standards. There's 4 main components that we had to really look at, which was planning and instruction, the learning environment, library administration, and leadership. I would say out of the 4 areas, the one that we kind of pride ourselves on the most is our learning environment. That's the area we really see come to life here at OLHMS. The biggest part of that is having a really relevant and well-managed collection that meets the students' needs. We have books in various languages, so that matches with our student population. We have books specific to the content that's being taught in the classrooms. We added some new collections, a picture book selection, which we haven't had before, for read-alouds, and it's a good entryway into research. We have a self-help and wellness section now that is really popular with the kids. And then also included in that learning environment is just creating a climate that's really inclusive, respectful, welcoming, and that's something we really, really try to do here.
It's great as as I enter our library space here at the middle school, pretty frequently, very rarely will I walk in and not see kids.
It's crowded all the time.
So kids are coming in, and that's always been the case. I mean, obviously, I hope that the renovation and the modernization and the flexibility now of the space are lending itself to some of that engagement. But it's always been kind of a gathering place, and that's really nice to see.
I mean, that's how it should be. So the libraries are the heart of the school, the hub of the school, and it's nice to be in a district that sees that, appreciates it, supports it. So we're lucky.
You mentioned the book collection, and that's always been a interesting topic. Yeah. Do you have intentional feedback opportunities for kids to provide input on just different types or themes relative to books? Do they just come up to you and say, "Hey, Ms. McCarthy, I want more books on this topic"?
Yes.
How does that work?
So we have our suggestion box, which is
Okay.
always full. New this last couple years, we've been adding manga, which I was not very familiar with, especially because the books are read backwards, and that's not really my thing. But I can't keep them on the shelf, and so
Really?
we just keep reordering. It's like you hear kids talk about anime and watching these anime
Right.
movies, and so manga is the book version. These
Okay.
look like Japanese comic books, but really into that. After our scholastic book fairs, I'll say, well, you spent the money, now we earn some money, and they'll flip through the Scholastic catalog.
I see.
And they'll pick
I see.
out the next set of books, the next wave of books
Great.
they want to come in.
Okay.
And just also engagement, whatever they're interested in, that's what we try and set up the displays around.
Sure.
So if there's a viral song about a kid eating corn, I'm going to pull every yellow book I have and every
Yeah.
corn book and set up the display. And
Jump on
then
that opportunity.
They disappear. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And then I would imagine staff have a very similar voice in the process too. I'm sure you have teachers coming to you with suggestions as well.
A lot of suggestions and then a lot of just collaboration. So
Sure.
coming up, we have our poetry unit. What do you have? What can we do? Or what books do you have that I can just set out in my classroom for the next 3 weeks while I'm teaching about World War II?
Sure. Okay. One of the key outcomes of our strategic plan in District 123 is to ensure that our kids really master those foundational skills of literacy, reading comprehension, writing, speaking, active listening. How do those types of things, how are those promoted within our library? That's where you come from. That's your experience, your background in a classroom level. How does that come alive in a library space?
So the first thing is getting kids engaged in the books, having that buy-in. Our collection, we really center around, it's Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop and her ideas of mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors, and having a collection that the kids can see themselves in. Diversity of representation, it's really big in our collection. Once they fall in love with all these books, they're much more willing to start engaging in these projects.
Sure.
We have a really cool project going on with 6th grade now where they chose any book that they want, fiction, nonfiction, and after reading it, they're using Flip. Used to be Flipgrid, now they just changed the name to Flip.
Yeah.
Making little book talks, book recommendations, or turning them into QR codes and putting them on all the books. So kids can then come in and now they have 300 different book recommendations.
Wow.
And the kids really like to see, oh, he read this book, now I want it. Or we'll get a lot of pairs of books so they can have book buddies and read together.
Right. And that element of project-based learning is something that's important to us too, because we think that's key to active learning and active engagement. And kids really seem to get excited about that at all levels, even from the kindergarten level on out. So you talked a little bit about that project. Is that something that you, as the librarian, come up with and then network out to the staff? Do the staff bring those projects to you? Is a little bit of a mixture of both?
It works both ways.
Yeah.
In the collaborations, we'll talk about like what's coming up next. They might have an idea and how can I help implement it, or I'll have an idea and bring it to them.
Sure.
We kind of go off with engage, enrich, and extend.
Okay.
So what are you doing in your classroom and how can I help make it more engaging?
Yeah.
Or how can I enrich or extend upon what you're already doing?
Okay. All right. Yeah. And I'm sure that opens up the door to a lot of opportunities with classroom teachers. And I would imagine it helps you become more knowledgeable in other curricular areas as well, as to what's important to our teachers.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot that I've been learning about science and robotics and circuitry and all sorts of stuff I didn't know before I took on this role.
That's great. And we do have a dedicated STEM space, here. And can you speak a little bit to that idea that, science learning and hands-on learning in a very experimental way is happening in a library that traditionally is seen as more of a reading space?
Yeah, it's definitely where we work on our engineering process.
Sure.
And the kids come in, our 3D printer gets a lot of use. And it's both connected to the content areas. Let's say an entrepreneur class, they come up with a small business and now they need to create a prototype. They can 3D print their prototype for their class. Other kids just come in and they want to make a new tech deck in the morning, and we do those kinds of things. The podcast studio has a waiting list. It's busy all day, every day, of making podcasts, documentaries. Kids also practice their singing in here. But we have basically endless resources. And, we say with the kids that we have this motto of create a dream, make it a reality. Yeah. And so nothing's really off limits here. Whatever they can dream of, whatever they want to create, we go for it.
Yeah.
We're not always successful, but that's great with the kids knowing it's okay to fail. We'll just try again. We'll go with a different approach. We'll improve on it and see what we can make.
It's that notion of giving kids an opportunity to tinker a little bit.
There's a lot of tinkering.
Yeah. And that helps kids definitely become more critical creators and designers in their own way, and kind of just tap into some interests or curiosities that they have. Because I've always found that idea, that element of, I remember as a child going to my local public library, there was always an element of curiosity I had. What are they doing next? What program is going to be there? What activity or opportunity will there be? There was always that element of curiosity, and I think that's something that STEM space helps build out a little bit more.
Absolutely. It's funny, too, because the teachers are curious. They'll just pop in and they're like, what are you doing now? What is happening? What's that noise? Or why do you need 800 piles of cardboard? What's really going on?
Right. Yeah, I always thought that the mail room where teachers get all of their mail should be in the library, just to get, because a lot of times, teachers do like hanging out in libraries. That's a good point.
With our new renovation, it brought a lot more teachers in.
Oh, great.
Because we have different seating. They don't feel like when they come in, they're intruding on any kind of class project, because we have so many different flexible seats and different spacing, that they feel much more comfortable coming in and just finding a spot to work and then also observe what's going on.
Yeah, it could provide a nice quiet spot as well. Another element that we're really interested in District 123 is making sure that our students are challenged. And how do you see the library functioning as that space where kids could kind of, extend their learning or advance their learning to higher levels?
We do a lot of what I call passion projects. So they'll find something in their classroom that they're really interested in, but sometimes the classroom curriculum, you got to move on to the next unit, step. The next step, but they really fell in love with this content or this idea. So then they can come to me and we can extend upon it. What is it about climate change that really, really intrigued you, and what do you want to do about it? You want to make a stop motion video to show all your peers? Great, let's do it. So we find a lot of the challenges extending off of what the classroom teachers are already doing and creating these passion projects. Yeah. And then also just collaborating with the teachers. This group that is out here right now, they are doing really well on their math unit, and the math teacher's like, I need to challenge them with something else. I just have these 5 kids. we're doing scales and proportions and geometry, and then we just sit down and look at the standards and then come up with a project.
So the math teachers have sent you students who have already pretty much mastered the content that they're learning in the classroom for extension opportunities.
Yes.
That's great. That's excellent. And again, it's wonderful to see the multidimensional approach to learning taking place in a library.
Yeah, right now it's math in there, and right before this we had science kids in here doing a Lego building challenge, and then we're turning the Lego challenge into a robotic challenge, and then they're taking a look at different Amazon warehouses and how robotics basically run
Plays
Amazon.
a part. Yeah, it's a whole different world out there for sure. What are the next steps for the library space here at Oaklawn Hometown Middle School? What are some things you as a librarian are starting to dream up?
Well, I take all my feedback from the kids. So whatever it is they're dreaming of, that's what we go with. We do a lot of community service, a lot of service learning, and those are our next steps. We're very fortunate the Education Foundation just granted us money to add sewing machines into our makerspace.
That's great.
And so we have a project coming up with Project Linus, where we'll be making blankets. We are making a set of dresses to send to Africa. And
Wow.
just whatever the kids want to do, we really like to add in that sense of empathy and community service. Even the kids working on their math project right now, their end project, they're deciding who can they gift this to or what can they do beyond it. So they're making these geodesic domes, and then they're like, oh, but Miss Dunnican has a granddaughter that likes princesses. Let's turn it into a princess castle and give it to her. You know, they're always thinking that step ahead of how they can help others.
Yeah, they're thoughtful that way.
We have very, very thoughtful, kind
That's
kids
excellent.
here.
Yeah, I always found service learning and connecting it to the work we do in schools being so motivational. You know, I just think that there's so much motivation to being generous with your time and giving of yourself to others that it's just a great, I think, a life skill.
You can definitely see the impact because we have a lot of alumni that are coming back.
Sure.
How can I help? What can I do? What kind of projects are you doing? Even with our new esports team, we have an alumni that reached out. He's like, I heard there's esports. How can I come back in and help?
Yeah. Do you want to give a quick pitch for esports too? Because I know that's something that you're digging into for the first time this year as well.
Yeah, it's amazing because we started off with a gaming club of just video games in general. And then the first trimester sign up, we had over 120 kids wanting to come in and play video games. So we're keeping our gaming club to just have fun. And then we're also adding that competitive element and now starting our inaugural esports team.
Yeah.
We have our first tournament on Friday with Super Smash Bros, 2K, and Rocket League.
And who are we competing against?
Evergreen Park High School is hosting us.
Okay.
And then they have other middle schools coming in.
Nice. Excellent. I look forward to hearing the feedback from that because I know you've got a very precocious group of kids who are interested in that.
They're very interested. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Very good. Well, Heather, thank you for taking the time today with us and for all the great work you're doing, making this library space engaging and just helping, connect meaningful learning to the kids' experience every day. So thank you for coming in and sharing some of your ideas. And I want to thank our entire audience for listening to our podcast about libraries. And we will come back again with another topic soon. And I want to just thank everyone for listening to 123 from District 123. And until next time, remember, when we believe, kids succeed.